Those water drinkers, you better listen up. Those plastic water bottles you're drinking out of may not be as safe as you think.
The risk of plastic water bottles is dangerously understudied, according to a new Concordia University research.
Hey, I want to talk to you about the dangers of plastic bottles.
I want you to do something for me right now. Go to your fridge, your desk, or your gym bag. Grab a plastic water bottle, any brand. The label doesn't matter. Turn the bottle over, look at the neck, or squint at the very bottom. You will see a timestamp in black ink, an expiration date. Now pause and use your logic. Water is the oldest substance on our planet. This liquid has cycled through the Earth's ecosystem for 4 billion years. Rain, steam, glaciers, clouds, even dinosaur sweat. Water does not expire. So why is there a deadline on the bottle? That date isn't for the hydration. That date is for the plastic. The manufacturer is legally admitting that after a certain point, the packaging itself starts to rot. The polyethylene terephthalate, or PET, begins to degrade, leaching chemicals into the drink. Think about the absurdity here. You are paying for a product so pure it lasted billions of years, sold in a container that turns it into a toxic liability. And the best part? You are paying a 2,000% markup for the privilege. This is the first clue that you are being played. We are about to walk through the greatest scam in the history of modern business. This isn't a story about hydration. It isn't a story about wellness. It is a story about how a handful of corporations took a free, public resource, wrapped it in fear, and sold it back to you at a higher price per gallon than gasoline. You think you are buying convenience. You think you are buying safety. But by the end of this video, you will realize that you are actually buying a subscription to a scam. To understand how they pulled off this heist, we have to understand a glitch in the human operating system. Humans hate things that are free. I know that sounds counterintuitive. We say we love free stuff, but subconsciously, we do not value things that come without a cost. If I give you a free t-shirt, you will use it to wash your car or paint your house. If I sell you that exact same t-shirt for $500 and stitch a designer logo on it, you will frame it. You will be careful when you wash it. You will wear it to dinner. This is the dance between price and perception. The giants of the beverage industry, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Nestle, understood this psychological flaw perfectly. In the late 1990s, these corporations faced a crisis. They had conquered the world with soda. They were making billions, but they knew the health trends were turning against sugar. Obesity rates were rising. Regulators were circling. They needed a new product to ensure future growth. Therefore, they looked at water. But water had a context problem. The context was, water is a public utility. The liquid flows into your house. The resource is everywhere. The product is free. Conflict. How do you build a billion-dollar scam around something people can get for $0? Resolution. You have to take the free out of the equation. By putting a price tag on water, the companies actually made the liquid taste better to us. This is not my opinion. This is neuroscience. Researchers at Caltech and Stanford have done studies where they give people the exact same wine. They tell one group the bottle costs $5. They tell the other group the bottle costs $50. The group drinking the $50 wine didn't just say they liked the taste more, their brains actually lit up more on the MRI scans. The pleasure centers of their minds were more active. Price creates perception. So when Dasani or Aquafina charges you $2 for a bottle of filtered tap water, they are hacking your brain. The act of paying creates the illusion of quality. If the store sold the bottle for 5 cents, you wouldn't trust the contents. But at $2, the price tag convinces you it must be premium. But how did this hustle start? How did we go from drinking out of garden hoses to carrying $40 insulated tumblers? We have to go back to 1977. In the 70s, nobody bought water in America. If you were thirsty, you found a fountain. If you were at a restaurant, the waiter put a glass of tap water on the table for free. Then came Perrier. Perrier was a French mineral water company. The brand was struggling. Americans didn't care about sparkling water. The public drank soda. So Perrier hired a marketing genius named Bruce Nevins. Nevins didn't market Perrier as water. He marketed the bottle as status. He launched a massive campaign. He hired Orson Welles, the voice of authority, to do the voiceovers. He sponsored the New York City Marathon. He positioned Perrier not as a thirst quencher, but as a lifestyle choice for the upwardly mobile yuppie. The tagline wasn't "drink this." The subtext was, if you are cool, you drink this. The strategy worked. Perrier sales went from 3 million bottles to 200 million bottles in a few years. This was the big bang moment for the water scam. Coca-Cola and Pepsi were watching. They saw people paying. This is where the scam gets technical, and this is where you need to pay attention to the deceptive words on the label. Most people assume that all bottled water comes from a magical place. The labels help this assumption. They show snow-capped mountains. They show pristine glaciers. They show green leaves with dewdrops. The imagery suggests nature. But the labels use very specific legal language to hide the truth. In the United States and Europe, there are strict definitions for water labels. Spring water must come from an underground formation from which water flows naturally to the surface. Mineral water must contain a specific amount of dissolved solids, minerals, naturally. These are expensive to produce. You have to find the source, protect the source, and truck the water. Purified water, however, is the loophole. Legally, purified water just means water that has been processed to remove impurities. The definition says absolutely nothing about the source. So where does the water for Dasani, Coke, Aquafina, Pepsi, and Pure Life, Nestle, come from? It comes from the PWS. If you have a really sharp eye, look at the tiny text on the back of the label of a generic purified water bottle. You might see, sourced from public water supply. That is a fancy word for the municipal pipe. It is the exact same pipe that feeds the toilet in the factory. It is the exact same pipe that feeds the fire hydrant on the street. It is the exact same pipe that feeds your kitchen sink. These companies build factories in industrial zones, hook up to the city water supply, and turn on the tap. They take the water that costs fractions of a penny per gallon, water that you and I subsidize with our taxes, and they put the liquid through a machine. Then they put the liquid in a plastic bottle. Then they sell the bottle for $1.99. This is arbitrage. They are arbitraging your ignorance. As long as you don't know it's tap water, you perceive the product as premium. Now, the lawyers for these companies would stop me right here. They would say, hold on, we don't just put tap water in a bottle, we filter it. And they are right, they do filter the water. But the way they filter the liquid is part of the scam. Let's talk about the rhythm of the manufacturing process. When the factories suck this water out of the city pipes, they run the liquid through a process called reverse osmosis. Imagine a microscopic net. They force the water through this net at extremely high pressure. This net catches everything. Bacteria? Gone. Chlorine? Gone. Pharmaceutical runoff? Gone. But the net also catches the good stuff. It strips out calcium. It strips out magnesium. It strips out potassium. It strips out the very things that make water taste like water. If you drink pure, chemically perfect H2O, the liquid tastes weird. The flavor is bitter, flat, and metallic. The sensation feels aggressive on your tongue because the fluid has no ionic balance. It is zombie water. The liquid is dead. Therefore, the companies have a problem. They clean the water so well that nobody wants to drink the product. Therefore, they have to re-engineer the liquid. Go look at the ingredients list on a bottle of Dasani. Yes, water has an ingredients list. That should be your first red flag. You will see magnesium sulfate, potassium chloride, salt. Why is there salt in your water? The corporations tell you it's for taste, and that is true. But the salt is also there because human beings are biologically wired to crave electrolytes. So here's the recipe for the business model. Take free tap water. Kill the water by stripping everything out. Frankenstein the water back to life by adding a specific chemical powder to mimic the taste of nature. Bottle the mixture. You aren't drinking nature. You are drinking a recipe. You are drinking a simulation of spring water, mixed in a lab in Detroit. So if the product is just remineralized tap water, how did they get everyone to switch? They used tone. Specifically, the tone of fear. In the early 2000s, the marketing strategy shifted. The giants stopped just talking about how good their water was and started subtly implying that your water was bad. You started seeing ads for water filters and bottled water that used words like pure, clean, and safe. Now, the human brain works on binary opposites. If the bottle is safe, then the tap must be dangerous. If the bottle is pure, then the tap must be dirty. They capitalized on every single infrastructure failure. Every time there was a pipe burst in a city, sales of bottled water spiked. When the tragedy in Flint, Michigan happened, a horrific failure of government, the bottled water companies didn't have to spend a dime on advertising. The news cycle did the marketing for them. They let the fear fester. They created a culture where we look at a public water fountain with suspicion. You walk through an airport. You see a water fountain near the bathroom. You think, ew, germs. Then you walk 10 feet to the Hudson News and buy a plastic bottle for $5. That ew reaction, that is a programmed response. The reality is that in most developed nations, municipal water is tested hundreds of times a month. The results are public record. You can go online right now and see exactly what is in your tap water. Bottled water? The product is regulated as food by the FDA. The testing is less frequent, and critically, the corporations are not required to publish their water quality reports to the public in the same way. You are trusting a private corporation whose only goal is profit more than you are trusting the public infrastructure you own. That is the power of tone. I know some of you are thinking, but what if my pipes actually are old? That valid fear is exactly why you're paying a fear tax on bottled water. You're flying blind. The solution isn't plastic, it's knowledge, which is why I highly recommend getting a home water test kit like TapScore. This isn't a cheap dip strip, it's the #1 rated lab-grade analysis by the NYT Wirecutter that lets you mail in a sample from your sink and get a digital breakdown of everything from lead to chlorine. It gives you the peace of mind to finally ditch the bottles, or tells you exactly which filter you need to fix your specific issue. Stop guessing. I've linked the test kit in the description below, so click that, test your water, and see if you can finally stop paying the plastic tax. Let's switch lenses. I want you to look at this not as a health product, but as a fashion accessory. This is the newest phase of the scam. Once everyone accepted that bottled water was normal, the market became crowded. You had the cheap stuff, the mid-range stuff, and the store brand. How do you keep growing profits? You turn the water into a status symbol. This is the story lens of identity. In the mid-2000s, the brands were Fiji and Voss. You didn't buy Voss because you were thirsty. You bought Voss because the bottle looked like a Calvin Klein perfume container. Putting a bottle of Voss on your desk signaled to everyone, I have disposable income, I am sophisticated. Today, the scam has morphed again. Look at Liquid Death. Liquid Death is objectively just water in a can. The liquid is mountain water from the Alps, sure, but the product is water. But the story lens is punk rock. The lens is anti-marketing. The brand puts the liquid in a tallboy can that looks like a beer. They use gothic fonts. They have slogans like "Murder Your Thirst." They prove that you can sell water to people who hate wellness culture just by changing the packaging. They aren't selling the liquid, they are selling the aesthetic. Or look at the smart waters. Life WTR, Essentia. They put the pH level on the bottle, 9.5 pH or higher. This is pseudo-science status. Your body is a pH regulating machine. Your stomach is a vat of hydrochloric acid with a pH of roughly 1.5. If you drink alkaline water, the second the liquid hits your stomach, the acid neutralizes it. The water does nothing for your blood acidity. If the water did change your blood pH, you would go into metabolic shock and die. But the story of alkaline water sounds expensive. It sounds pro, so we pay double for the bottle. We are paying for the feeling of being a person who cares about their pH levels. We are buying an identity. I want to tell you a story about the one time this entire house of cards collapsed. It is proof that the scam relies entirely on consumer ignorance. It's the story of the Dasani launch in the United Kingdom. In 2004, Coca-Cola decided to bring Dasani to Britain. They spent millions on marketing. They used the same playbook as the US: purity, lifestyle, coolness. But the British press, they are a different breed. They are cynical. A journalist started digging into where the water came from. He tracked the factory to a town called Sidcup. It's a suburb of London. It's not exactly the Swiss Alps. He found out that the factory was drawing water from the local Thames water supply. The headline the next day was legendary. It essentially read, "Coke sells tap water from Sidcup for £1.20." The illusion shattered. In the US, we had accepted the term purified water. In the UK, the public translated that term to rip-off. The British people were furious. They realized the math. They realized Coke was marking up the water by 3,000%. Then, the scam got worse. Because Coke was adding that mineral recipe, calcium, magnesium, etc., to the water, a bad batch occurred. The minerals reacted with the ozone used for sterilization, and the reaction created a chemical called bromate. Bromate is a carcinogen. So not only was the product tap water, it was cancerous tap water. Coca-Cola had to recall every single bottle in the country. They pulled the brand. To this day, you cannot buy Dasani in the UK. This story matters because it proves that the value of bottled water is purely psychological. The moment the customer realizes the product is just tap water, the value drops to zero. We have to talk about the cost that isn't on the price tag. The scam of selling you what you already own relies on externalities. An externality is when a company makes a profit, but the public pays the cost. When you buy a bottle of water, you are paying for the plastic, the shipping, and the marketing. You are not paying for the disposal. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Nestle sell you the plastic bottle. But once you drink the water, the bottle is your problem. Or more accurately, the taxpayer's problem. We pay taxes to fund the municipal water system, which the companies use for cheap. Then we pay taxes to fund the landfills and recycling centers, which have to deal with the billions of empty bottles. It is a double tax. And don't get me started on the recycling lie. For decades, these companies ran ads telling us to recycle, keep America beautiful. Why? Because if the companies could convince you that recycling works, you wouldn't feel guilty about buying the plastic. If you thought, this bottle will end up in the ocean, you might hesitate. But if you think, I'll put this in the blue bin and it will become a new bottle, you keep buying. The reality? Less than 10% of plastic is actually recycled. It's too cheap to make new plastic. Most of those bottles in your blue bin end up in a landfill or shipped to other countries to be burned. The giants sold us a material that lasts for 500 years to hold a drink that we consume in 5 minutes. It is an environmental Ponzi scheme, and we are the ones left holding the bag. So, what are the companies doing now? The executives know that people are waking up. They know that reusable bottles like Stanley's and Hydro Flasks are hurting their bottom line. So the industry is pivoting. If they can't sell you on the water anymore, they will sell you on the additive. This is why the beverage aisle now looks like a pharmacy. Caffeinated water, collagen water, hydrogen water, CBD water. They are moving the goalposts. They are admitting, okay, maybe you can get water from your sink, but can you get focus from your sink? Can you get beauty from your sink? The companies are taking the same cheap commodity, adding a microscopic amount of a trending ingredient and charging $4 instead of $2. It is the same scam, just a new level. They are selling you solutions to problems they invented. So where do we go from here? What is the direction of this story? I am not telling you to never drink bottled water again. If you are in a disaster zone, bottled water saves lives. If you are in a country where the infrastructure is broken, bottled water is a necessity. If you are on a road trip and you forgot your bottle, fine. But for the day-to-day, for the office, for the gym, for the dinner table, we have to break the spell. We have to look at that plastic bottle and stop seeing purity. We need to see it for what it is, a tax on our laziness and our fear. The solution is incredibly simple, and it saves you thousands of dollars a year. Get a filter. If you don't like the taste of your tap water, buy a Brita. Buy an undersink filter. That one-time purchase gives you purified water for pennies. Get a vessel. Buy a glass or steel bottle. Drink. It feels surprisingly rebellious. When you fill up a bottle at a sink, you are opting out of the system. You are bypassing the marketing. You are bypassing the markup. You are bypassing the plastic waste. I want to leave you with one final thought, a thought experiment. Imagine I walked up to you on the street holding a Ziploc bag, and I told you, this isn't just a bag, this is premium oxygen. I harvested the gas from the wind currents of the Swiss Alps, and then I asked you to pay me $5 for the bag. You would laugh at me. You would call me a scam artist. You would say, air is free, you idiot. But if I take water, which is also free and also everywhere, and I put the liquid in a plastic bottle and I slap a picture of a mountain on the label, you don't laugh. You pull out your wallet, you tap your card, you say thank you. Don't let them sell you the air, and don't let them sell you the water. You already own it. This is just one lie in a sea of marketing manipulation. If you want to see more scams, frauds, and industries hacking your psychology to empty your wallet, hit that subscribe button. We are going to deconstruct every single one of them. Peace.